I just meditated today and it was a big releasing day. Uh, so I was sitting as usual with eyes closed in a lotus pose on the couch. And meditation went quite well actually. Today is not a microdosing day, but still I think I'm starting to see long-term benefits, like my thoughts being more quiet and it being more easier to be in my body, which is great. So what happened is I started feeling this tension in my upper back, shoulders, back of the shoulders and the back of the neck. And that's not an unusual sensation. It happens once in a while, like there's tension there. And what I knew to do was just to stay with the sensation and feel it. And so I just sat there and stayed with the sensation, paid attention to the sensation, the texture of it, the feeling of it, the location of it, being curious and inquire about that sensation. And there wasn't strong emotion related to it, which is, I wouldn't say which is good, because nothing is good or bad, but to me it shows how I've worked a lot on the mental level of my traumas and my traumas, but there's still things in the body, trapped sensations, not only emotions but sensations in the body which are related to trauma. So I stayed there, and obviously my mind still does its thing meanwhile. So it says, okay, now we're going to feel this, and when I feel it, it's going to release and magically evaporate and go away, and then I'll have this huge release and feel amazing afterwards. Well, obviously things don't always work so magically. It just kept on intensifying. The more attention I paid to the sensation, the stronger it became. And then my hands and arms became really rigid and stiff as well, and still. And I started crooking my head and my back, and I still have lines here. Those lines I've had for years, but the more I do skincare and face yoga, they sort of disappear. But I can't reproduce it, but my face was all crooked like that, really tense. And I was at some point I had my head bent over and my hands crooked, and just reproducing the sensation still hurts. So I stayed there and I stayed there. At some point too, my alarm went off and the 1 hour of meditation was over, but I thought, there's something there, let me stay with it. So I stayed with it. It increased, it was intense, and then I was stuck there, like super tense. Like, imagine if you hold your fist tight like this for whatever, 2 seconds, fine. If you hold it for 1 minute, it'll be harder and harder. Imagine holding that for a half hour. Like when you carry super heavy luggage and then you release your hand hurts and it's hard to let go. Well, trauma is the same thing in the body. Your body contracts around something, a sensation, an emotion, and if you don't heal it, it stays stuck this way forever, for decades, for years, months, decades, a lifetime, possibly too. So there I was, crooked, and my body was crooked on my seat. My face was so tense in my hands, and I stayed there. I didn't want to look at the time. Well, I couldn't. I was bent over, and I just stayed with it. And obviously I wanted it to stop. I was like, okay, what should I do? Should I do something to release? Should I yeah, but I thought, let me just stay with it. The saying, feel it to heal it. It doesn't say feel it to release it, unfortunately. Well, I guess maybe it helps. Maybe feeling it is enough. Although I don't feel relief right now at all. I still feel tense. So I stayed with it as long as I could. At some point, nothing specific happened. Oh yes. At some point, my hands and forearms started shaking, which is, from what I read, a form of releasing. So that happened, and I was like hoping that my whole shoulders and face and everything would start shaking again as well, so that I can release that as well. But it didn't happen. So for the later part of that process, whatever you want to call it, my hands, although they were not as tense, they were like more soft. So they were still in the same position with my whole body, but I felt like the shaking had released something. So I was really hoping that if I stayed there long enough, at some point my body would release, and whatever, my face and upper body would shake as well and release, which didn't happen. I could have stayed longer, but at some point it hurt so much to be contracted so tightly without letting go for, I didn't know how long at the time. When I stopped, it had been over a half hour, over 30 minutes of being super tense, my muscles contracted like non-stop. Something else happened too. At some point, my breathing started sounding like this. I know, with the nose. Super fast breathing. The inhale was silent and the exhale was really with sound. And I have no idea where that comes from my past, but I heard that before. I don't know if it was me, for some reason my sister came to mind, or someone else. I have no idea where it comes from. I have no memory, but I heard that breathing before, very, very specifically. There's a memory there that didn't come up, which is fine. And strangely, it's super easy for me to breathe this way. Whereas in the last couple of years, I've worked a lot with breath work to retrain my breathing, because I have a very shallow breathing. So learning to breathe deep in my belly and even in my lungs was not natural for me. So I suspect that breathing was mine at some point in my life for some specific reason, which I do not remember. So that was my meditation today. So after I let go of the pose, I was so, it hurt so much. I could see like all the lines here from my mouth being tense, and my what's that called here? My face being, so tense for over 30 minutes. So I laid down on the floor for a few minutes and tried to release and let go, which didn't happen. I still feel the tension in my back and in this arm, this upper arm. Oh, hold on. So I went to open the door. What was I saying? Well, I was just sharing that strange meditation today. And yeah, that's it. Part of me would like to say, and now I feel so light and amazing, but no, I just feel the same. But I think no matter how I feel in the moment right now, I'm sure it is beneficial to allow body sensations to express, to be felt, to be acknowledged, not wanting them to go away, which I did. Obviously it hurt, it physically hurt a lot, and I wanted it to stop. But as my mind was saying I wanted to stop, I was reminding myself that it's okay. The sensation is allowed to be there. The sensation is allowed to be felt in my body. it's fine. So I trained myself there. So that was it for my day 72, I believe.